Michael Saylor change everything and no one even noticed? While we've all been distracted by the Middle East and markets bleeding trillions of dollars, one of Michael Saylor's products has been quietly buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Could this product alone be the catalyst that ends Bitcoin's bear market early and leave everyone in disbelief waiting to buy Bitcoin at lower prices? I know that sounds crazy, but what Saylor has done with Stretch is truly incredible. There is so much interest in the last week. It really is almost mind-blowing what we're seeing happen. And as Saylor said in the past, this is, in his opinion, the iPhone moment. But before I get into all of the numbers, let me play you the clip from Matt Hogan of Bitwise explaining why there is so much interest in this STRC or Stretch product from MicroStrategy.
I mean, the leading preferred is STRC, which is a really fascinating instrument. For people who don't know, corporations can have multiple different kinds of securities. They can have bonds that are just debt instruments. They can have convertible bonds that can convert into shares. They can have common stock, which is just the stock that most of us own. And then there's this unique streak called preferred equity. Where preferred equity sits is it's above the common in the event that the company goes bankrupt. So you pay off your debts and then you distribute the proceeds first to the bondholders, then convert holders, then preferred. But what's really unique is that they can pay income, they can pay distributions. So with STRC specifically, it's paying about an 11.5% annual yield. And then what MicroStrategy does is it raises or lowers that yield in an effort to keep the preferred price at $100. So what we've seen even during this massive drawdown is that the preferred stock has stayed right around $100 and the people have been getting 11.5% yield. And it's mostly tax-free because it's technically a return of capital. They're able to offset losses. The risk you're taking with something like STRC is that MicroStrategy effectively is deciding what the yield is. So they could make the yield more, they can make the yield less. Theoretically, they could not pay a yield at all. The reason you're betting they won't take that last option is that it would be a huge reputational damage to the firm. So that's the risk you're taking. But the benefit is you're getting like a really hefty tax deferred yield. 11.5% is hard to come by. And they've been doing a very good job. I suspect that the interest in STRC and copycats of that will be really significant for the next 12 months or so.
All right, guys, that last point, well, rather, probably that second to last sentence, that is the main idea right here. 11.5% yield, annual yield is hard to come by. And I think this is why we're starting to see it pick up. I think traditional financial investors are starting to look at what Saylor is doing and they're getting excited. Maybe it's the greed bug, whatever you want, but you do not get those type of returns from traditional financial vehicles. That is why this is so interesting. But from you, from the viewer, from someone that might just be a Bitcoin holder, you're probably like, why is this? How could this product in and of itself end the Bitcoin bear market? Well, that's obviously the big speculation. That's the big if. But when you look at the numbers, it is absolutely insane what they've done in the last week, which from our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine really show just how crazy this last week has been for the Stretch product. Saylor's strategy has bought an estimated accumulated 9,454 Bitcoin so far in the last week via just the STRC product. Just one of Saylor's product has bought close to 10,000 Bitcoin in the last week. Now, if you connect that with what Matt Hogan said, he's like, I'd expect that this might continue for the next 12 months. Which means there might be a whole new interest into the Stretch product. And if this amount of Bitcoin buying happens continuously, if Saylor somehow with one product is miraculously able to buy 10,000 Bitcoin per week, and that demand just continues to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger, that is an incredible amount of Bitcoin that is going to end up in strategy and just in one of its products, the STRC product. Now, this number, again, for you guys at home, to really wrap your head around just how much Bitcoin they bought in this last week. Remember, 450 Bitcoin are released per day. 9,454 Bitcoin. That's about 21 days of Bitcoin buying done in a single week by Saylor. So if that continues to go on and they're just chewing up all of this Bitcoin week by week, again, demand supply economics, you'd expect the price to go up. Now, to make this even crazier, this STRC product, with the amount of interest it's gotten in the last week, they have now been able to raise enough capital to buy another 4,000 Bitcoin. So almost 10,000 this week, at minimum 4,000 next week. Now you can see how the dominoes are just continuing to grow. If this continues to go up and more people are incentivized to use this, coming from more a TradFi investor, because you at home, you're probably just thinking, hey, I just want to buy Bitcoin in spot. Totally get it. I don't want to buy a levered Bitcoin play. I don't want to buy a security. I want to own Bitcoin. I mean, just do what Saylor's doing, right? Yes. But from his perspective, again, a product market fit. He is not necessarily marketing these products for us at home. Yes, you can use this product if you're trying to get an 11.5% annual yield, tax-free and income. Like, obviously there's a product market fit for us as individuals, but from a more traditional institutional investment outlook, this is starting to really be a game changer. And Nico brought this up last week when we mentioned Stretch the first time. Maybe it was the first time on the show. I think we've hinted at it. It's starting to really, really, I think, turn a lot of eyes here. It's turning a lot of heads here. Sorry, the optimisms on the show. Anyways, here is the strategy.com Stretch dashboard. And you can just see the amount of interest, just the amount of money that it's already been acquired by this product. And it's their latest product. It's relatively new. And you're starting to see it's really just picking up. I think it's that, well, I know it's at 11.5% annual yield. We're starting to see a frenzy around here. You're starting to see that people are really starting to notice this product. Obviously, we've seen around the world, institutions, hedge funds, even central banks really get incentivized to buy MSTR, just the common stock. Now we might be seeing a whole new incentive structure building on top of these, equities, Bitcoin stocks, whatever you want to call it, preferred stocks. You're seeing it. He might have actually done what he said he did a few years ago on, I forget what stage it was. It might have just been at the Bitcoin for Corporation stage, but he's like, I think this is the iPhone moment for Bitcoin. It's a Stretch product. And again, he is tapping into a lot of trap liquidity, a lot of different markets that Bitcoin wasn't really looked at favorably. It wasn't really able or capable of getting and attracting this kind of wealth. And we're seeing it's working. Like, he found an incredible product market fit here. He found himself like the product here. And it is kind of interesting when you remember how Saylor got to this point. And I'm not gonna, be too cynical about it, but it did seem like Saylor was just kind of throwing products at the wall and seeing what sticks. And some of them were really well. Obviously, the MSTR stock, the Bitcoin treasury play was obviously, he was ahead of the curve on that one. They've been able to acquire close to 1 million coins. They might even be able to get to 1 million coins if this bear market continues to go sideways for a while, or even lower. If it goes lower, he's for sure probably going to be able to get to 1 million Bitcoin. But this one, the Stretch product, as Matt Hogan said, as we're seeing from the amount of interest, as we're seeing by the amount of Bitcoin that has been accumulated in a single week, it really seems like this one is going to be the game changer product. Maybe you're not interested in just buying a levered Bitcoin play by buying MSTR. Maybe it's just preferred stock because you just want to 11.5 annual income here, tax-free. You don't really want to do anything. You want to, get paid. Remember the whole idea. Bitcoin has no yield. Why would I invest into this thing if I'm a traditional financial investor? Saylor, I think, might have unlocked all of the capital. This is definitely going to attract, I don't know if this product alone, the stretch product, but this idea is definitely going to be able to attract, trillions of dollars, whether it's spread out a bunch of competitors or, Saylor just continues to innovate. But even if it's just this product in the market and Saylor is able to attract this much capital into it, and he's able to buy thousands of Bitcoin via this new flywheel that he's created, this is why you're starting to look at this and be like, wow, is Saylor literally single-handedly going to end the bear market by himself? And to Saylor's credit, he went out there and tweeted something very interesting, and everyone on Twitter is like, wait, what is he saying here? Like, what does he know? What is going on behind the scenes? What is Saylor watching? Because yesterday, he tweeted this basically right when we went live. And I saw this earlier, and I didn't connect the dots with the stretch product, but it does make you think. It's like, wow, I think Saylor is literally saying he just ended the bear market. So I'll pass it over to Nico after I read this tweet. But Saylor yesterday tweeted, there's a delay between the time we buy Bitcoin and the time Bitcoin goes to the moon. You're like, yo, Saylor is he's really out here kind of flexing right now. He's like, look, this week we bought 10,000 Bitcoin just in one of my products. He's continuing to raise capital and do the standard flywheel Bitcoin treasury play. Now he's got multiple vehicles of attracting Bitcoin. There's not that much Bitcoin released daily. It does feel like we are seeing the end of seller exhaustion. Obviously, there's still debate. There's still speculation of whether we'll see another, leg down. I know that's kind of the consensus right now. But if this continues and we have seen the end of OG selling Bitcoin, the end of Bitcoin mining, public companies selling Bitcoin, this could get out of hand to the upside. Remember I said it the other day, the violent repricing. Again, Saylor by himself might be doing this exact thing. And then, of course, once the number actually goes back up, once we probably break out of the 70K area is when you'll know for sure. I did talk to Luke this morning, guys, our reigning almost more bullish friend than me. He has been kind of bearish the last couple of days privately. And I don't mean to put your business out there, Luke, but he's like, yo, if we break out past 84K, like it's on like Donkey Kong. And then I'm in the middle, like, yo, you're bearish. And Nico's like, we're still going to 40K, bro. So look, what Saylor has done, I think what he will continue to do with this product is just insane. If Saylor alone just is able to acquire thousands, close to tens of thousands of Bitcoin into a single product, it's just simply supply demand economics.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's crazy to me about all of this is we've been talking about stretch for a while now. First of all, the memes dropping from the strategy CEO are hilarious, right? It's like, the doctor recommends you get a good stretch in the morning, to remain in good health, and stuff like that. So the memes are just hilarious. That's the first thing I'll say. The second thing is, regarding this as the iPhone moment, 100%. I mean, this is what got me so excited talking about this over the last couple of weeks, but this is what you guys need to know. Fundamentally, Saylor is betting, it's a bet fundamentally, that the Bitcoin price will appreciate 20 to 30% over the next 15 to 20 years.
Per year for the next 15 to 20.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's ebbs and flows. He's taking out the volatility for you. He's guaranteeing you 11% interest. If you're a dividend. but it amounts to around 11% return on a yearly basis. That completely blows any other fixed income product out of the water. But I read this post from Forced Hodl this morning, and he's absolutely right to point this out. This only works if number goes up, right? That's what it boils down to. Because if Bitcoin does not appreciate faster than 11%, this product doesn't make sense. If Bitcoin does appreciate faster than 11%, let's say it appreciates at a 20% CAGR for the next 15 to 20 years, or it appreciates at a 30% CAGR for the next 15 to 20 years, then this stretch product, not only is it viable, it's an iPhone moment, because the whole fixed income market, the longer this stretch product exists, the more confidence it's going to have in the product, and the more people are going to see it as less risky, right? So essentially it becomes this crazy flywheel, right, that we're going to see. And this flywheel is essentially, they're using the proceeds from this product to buy more Bitcoin. And as Opti pointed out, they're buying on a daily basis, just this product alone, more of the Bitcoin supply than is being mined on a daily basis. So I think what Saylor is aiming for, and what Opti was saying in the beginning of the show, is that eventually there might be some type of supply shock, which again sends Bitcoin to new highs. If Bitcoin goes to new highs, then this stretch product can continue, no pun intended, can continue being stretched into the future, right? Now, what is the long-term, let's say, 50-year viability of this product? I don't know. Let's get through the next 5 years. But fundamentally, if Saylor is able to deliver that 11% return for the next 5 years, and it being fueled by the best asset the world has ever seen, which is Bitcoin, it's going to be a complete game changer for financial markets. And Strategy is going to be one of the most successful companies on planet Earth. And Opti did mention copycats earlier. I mean, we did see that with the Bitcoin treasury companies early on, but once again, Strategy has this first mover advantage. Right. I wouldn't even look at any of the copycats. The other copycats are going to have to offer higher interest on top of the 11%.
And we know how that game ends.
Exactly. So they're going to have to offer higher interest for people to be attracted to them. But with higher interest comes more risk, right? And that's the big bet, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll be honest with you, I think 11% is conservative. I think 15% CAGR is conservative. I think we get a minimum of 20 to 25 to 30% CAGR moving forward. I think if we don't get that, I would say that Bitcoin failed in a lot of ways, right? Because again, the whole thesis, there's been so many books written about this. There's been so many articles written about how great of an asset Bitcoin is, the bullish case for Bitcoin, the Bitcoin standard by Saifedean. Larry mentioned it in the big print, Lynn Lepard, like nothing stops this train. And the theories behind, all these books and all these theories is basically like, look, if they're going to print more money, look at the situation in the Middle East, right? They're going to debase the currency. If they debase the currency, it's infinity divided by 21 million. Gold, even though it's scarce, ultimately it's not absolutely scarce like Bitcoin is, right? So that's really the question right now. Is Bitcoin going to beat that 11% return that MicroStrategy is offering with their stretch product? Strategy, they're renamed. If you believe Bitcoin is, I believe Bitcoin is, then this is a this is such a monumental moment for the traditional markets because the fixed income market is massive. It's huge. And most people in the fixed income market are getting, like, let's say you get a high yield savings account like from Amex or from the other banks that offer it. They're offering, like 3.5, 3.8%. Let's say you're buying bonds, right? It's in the 4.5 region. Let's say you're investing in real estate, right? On a very, very good year, you're getting between 8 to 12%, but you have to deal with tenants, you have to deal with maintenance, you have to deal with taxes. This is why this stretch product is such a game changer, because you're getting 11% yields. It's tax deferred, as Opti mentioned. You don't have to deal with tenants. You don't have to deal with maintenance. And you're getting that type of return. Like in the stock market, just to kind of give you guys a frame of reference, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, if you come from the traditional markets, a 10% return is fantastic. If you get a 10% return on your portfolio on a yearly basis, I know we've been spoiled here in Bitcoin land. That is the best. That is a fantastic return for the year. So the fact that a fixed income product is basically offering that is an ultimate game changer. But the big question on everybody's mind, and we don't know the answer to this question yet. We have no idea how this is going to end up. The big question is, and our business depends on this, the entire Bitcoin industry depends on number go up technology, is Bitcoin going to reach that 20 to 25 to 30% CAGR over the next 10 to 15 years? That is the big question. If Bitcoin does, the stretch product is going to be a game changer. It's going to be fueled by Bitcoin. And strategy is going to work. If it doesn't, then this product is going to fail. But not only is this product going to fail, I would say the entire Bitcoin industry doesn't look as attractive to investors anymore. Like if Bitcoin can't outperform the S&P 500, again, not from us ideologues that are believing in self-custody and look at Bitcoin from a sovereignty perspective, from a revolutionary perspective, but from traditional investors. So, if you're someone that has a 401k, if you're someone that's interested in fixed income to kind of maintain your lifestyle, et cetera, you're not going to look at you're going to look at Bitcoin. You're like, yeah, that's interesting, but like, why am I going to take that perceived risk that they associate Bitcoin with? If they can get a much safer return, for example, with the U.S. Treasury, right? Or with a high yield savings account. Why would they take that additional risk on? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing when you are buying the stretch product. Now, it is working for the time being, but let's see. I think the next 3 to 4 years are going to be incredibly exciting. I'll tell you guys what I personally believe. Of course, this is not trading advice. This is not financial advice. I think the year after the year after the blow off top, it usually tends to be a little bit of a bearish year. So we're in that year right now, which is 2026. But what I'm really looking forward to is the end of 2026, 2027, and then 2028. Historically, the halving cycles have not broken yet, as much as everyone kept yelling from the rooftop, this time is different. This time was, in fact, not different. So because the halving cycle theory is still in play, that means that 2027 should be a fantastic year for Bitcoin. 2028 should be an incredible year for Bitcoin. And 2029 should be an amazing year for Bitcoin as well. Now, if you put all of what I just said together with the fact that now traditional Wall Street has the mechanisms and the vehicles to get exposure to Bitcoin, and there's different products to tap into different pools of capital, this next bull market is going to be, it's going to put this last one to shame in terms of institutional adoption and institutional involvement in Bitcoin. And that is what could potentially bring Bitcoin to those new price tiers, right? Because Bitcoin is such a huge asset right now. It's a multi-trillion-dollar asset. So for you to really move the price, you really need a lot of capital going into the asset. And this is where the big banks, this is where Wall Street kind of comes into play. And I understand a lot of you guys that get that icky feeling when you hear Wall Street and big banks. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, like that is what is going to push Bitcoin to the new price points, right? And I think that's part of the motivation as to why, some of the OGs felt like exiting last cycle. I think the reason that we didn't have this euphoric phase is a lot of people that were holding for 10, 15 years, they bought Bitcoin under $100 or in the $100 region or the below $1,000 region. They're like, listen, I've made an incredible return. This is life-changing money for me. I'm going to start going and living my life a little bit. It doesn't mean that they've sold all their Bitcoin, but their priorities have changed, right? Perhaps they got into Bitcoin in their mid-20s at the time, in their 30s. If you got into Bitcoin in your early 30s and you've been holding for 15 years, you're now 45 years old, right? Your priorities are a little bit different. Perhaps that militant attitude and that militant worldview that you had when you were younger changed a little bit, right? So a lot of things happen over a 15-year time scale. Like for me, looking back, holy crap, it's been 10 years, right? It's been 10 years. I can't even imagine what another 5 years in this industry would be like. Like
I'm going to be cooked.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to talk about. So I kind of empathize a lot with a lot of these OGs that were like, look, man, like it's time to ride into the sunset a little bit, right? So anyways, back to the stretch product and then
Nico,
pass it back to Opti and I'll get off my soapbox, I promise. Dude, this is an absolute game changer. But, big but, it does require for the Bitcoin price to appreciate at least a 15 to 20% CAGR. If it doesn't appreciate at that rate, then this stretch product is not going to work. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to pay out the dividends for the foreseeable future. Strategy has a huge cash position. They will be able to service those dividend payments. But that stretch product is based on Saylor's thesis, which he gave this presentation at Bitcoin 2025. He basically believes that by 2045, he thinks that minimum the price of Bitcoin is going to be $13 million per coin. This stretch product is based on that theory. Now, Saylor has had a very, very good track record at predicting paradigm shifts and at predicting innovations, right? He wrote the book, The Mobile Wave, where he predicted that the iPhone was going to fundamentally change the world because it was going to put a computer in everybody's hands. And he got that 100% right. So, I mean, Opti, I don't see how, I'm on Saylor's side in terms of what his theory is. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to you. Yeah. We also have a very special guest joining us. We're going to be bringing him on the show in a little bit. Steve has joined. Steve is from SAT123. So we're going to be bringing him on the show after the commercial break in just a little bit. Anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a sec. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we have Steve joining us. Steve is with, Steve, please correct me, Sabre Defense Team. Is that correct?
No, Sabre Defense Team.
Sabre Defense Team.
Yeah, the younger generation sometimes goes, what? How is that? Sabre Defense Team is a private security contractor. And then we also run a separate organization called Strategic Response Partners, also known as SRP. It's a global disaster management company.
Awesome. So guys, you guys know the deal, right? The Bitcoin is all about sovereignty. It's all about, reclaiming back your financial sovereignty, but it's not only about reclaiming your financial sovereignty. You want to reclaim your sovereignty as a sovereign individual, right? And that comes with, not relying on the grid for power, not relying on, traditional communications, but also it's thinking about home defense, right? It's all one package when it comes to this, right? So Bitcoin is just one element of becoming a sovereign individual. And I'm very excited to have Steve joining us on the show today. And again, shout out to Sat123 for the recommendation. So Steve, please give us a breakdown of what Sabre does. It's a pretty badass name, by the way, I might add. And I'll pull up your website while you do that.
Yeah, so Sabre Defense Team has provided security for some of the largest high net worth clients that own some of the biggest burger franchises, done a lot of special events for big musicians, provided security for Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, Charlie Kirk. On certain occasions, we did the 6-part docuseries called Border Battles with Charlie. He was a close friend. I actually had him speak a few weeks before he passed. In Dallas at a conference called Win the Storm. And we do mission critical stuff. So aside from executive protection for many people that are well-known people, we provide certain mission critical stuff like we went to Syria as far as in Hadar in Sweden where they slaughtered 2,000 Druze and Christians, right? Which barely made any news station, just didn't fit the narrative. We've done missions in Nigeria, in Sudan. We were the ones that were instrumental in extracting a bunch of Americans and VIPs out of Puerto Vallarta. Within minutes of that happening, we had armored vehicles pulling people out of Puerto Vallarta, getting them into Cuernavaca at an FBO there, and then flying them from that FBO to Tijuana, using our Mexican assets that we used during Hurricane Otis with SRP on the search and rescue side of it. So we operate in over 70 countries. But when it comes to protection, right, people go, I got a firearm. How well are you trained? That's like going to Guitar Center and buying a guitar doesn't make you a musician, right? Going through the training, being the protector of your household. And my business partner, which I owe a lot of credit to, is Byron Rogers, right? Always preaching executive protection, always talking about being the man of peace, the protector of your family. But we do grid down courses completely where you're building your shelter, you're foraging for food, you're processing an animal, you're doing force on force, you're doing security perimeters, and you're completely off the grid. So when people talk about being off the grid, and if you haven't done it, I highly, highly recommend it to your listeners because it'll change your mind, it'll change your life, and it'll raise your confidence level of going, you know what? I could actually do this. If the grid went down and I had to operate solo, I know how I could hunt for food, how I could forage for food, how I could ambush another camp, right? I'm just telling you because it's a fit of the survival, right? Survivalist. Yeah, there's a lot of benefit in our training. What makes the guys that come out of the SF, the special forces, and then how we train them how to operate in the urban interface. So yeah.
That's fantastic. And again, it's so, you know, part of Bitcoin culture, Steve, where this aspect of sovereignty, right? This aspect of reclaiming back your financial sovereignty. And I think, you know, like home defense really plays a key role in that. But when it comes to home defense, training is everything, right? This is not, you know, you're not playing with toys. Ultimately these are firearms. You need to be trained to use them, and there's also legal implications that I think are you know, people have to be aware of, right? Depending on the state, there's different laws, right, that apply to you. But thankfully in Florida we have stand your ground, right? But different states have different laws for all of this. But this plays a key role, in my opinion, in again reclaiming your sovereignty as an individual. And part of that is knowing how to defend yourself, and most importantly, how to defend your loved ones and your family, right? So I really love what you guys offer in terms of not only the security services for high net worth individual Bitcoiners that are looking into that. Over the next, you know, 10, 15 years, I believe, you know, if we are right about the Bitcoin price appreciation, you know, Steve, the 20 to 40% of the ultra high net worth individual class are going to be Bitcoiners, and they are going to require some type of security. But fundamentally, I think also it comes down to the individual as well, right? So learning how to properly use a firearm is incredibly important from a safety perspective, and in both ways, how to handle a firearm properly, and how to defend yourself if worst comes to worst. So that's really interesting. Could you talk a little bit more about the training program? Because what I've been seeing in your website is that it's really, really all encompassing in terms of what you guys offer in the training. So I'm just going to read some of this. I can't really say this on YouTube, but let's just say a close quarter battle type of situation, a simulator lab, offsite training, a training that emulates real conditions for the end user to navigate and emerge better, a realistic training environment where you can become an efficient shooter and communicator, control the environment as you navigate real world scenarios on a reality-based simulator. So it really, really is all encompassing. And Steve, before you answer that question, I really want to know, what is your background? Like, how did you start? Like, what made you involved in this company?
So if you look at, there's two companies. If you go to srp24.com, that's Strategic Response Partners. In '89, I was that kid that was fascinated with, you know, worldwide disasters, right? People going down a river in a makeshift mattress boat, carrying their personal belongings. I had a bunch of my friends that were in that went into the fire service, and I'm like, well, what'd you do? We went and kicked the door in, put some water, you know, put the wet stuff on the red stuff, and then you left, right? So my stuff was disaster response, crisis response, and then just putting together a very comprehensive team of just the best operators. And it's not just someone who's trained. Man, they have to be first and foremost in all things spiritually grounded. Because that spirit, if you're not tuned in there, you're not knowing when to zig or when to zag, right? And I've really kind of just put the elite team together. So that's why we represent some of the most well-known people as not just their private security, right? And they're all around Bitcoin. That's just part of their world. We also provide private fire. So in the LA fires, we saved a bunch of their homes, made it on multiple news stations. Because who are these guys that stayed behind with their fire pumps, drafting from pools, protecting all these homes for these rich and famous people? And we've been doing that for years. But when it comes to disaster preparedness and crisis, they kind of go together, but they're two standalone companies. So when it comes to, I get the beautiful thing of going into hurricanes a couple days earlier, setting up and preparing the critical infrastructure, bringing in the fuel, the temp power, the shrink wrap crews, environmental, structural engineers to be able to make sure that that hospital, that logistics center, that they stay online, right? But my guys are trained to be in that area knowing there's no communication, there's no power, there's no food, there's no water. So we bring a city within a city. And the level of preparedness that we have is keep it lean, keep it nimble, and be able to have your grab and go kits. All our stuff's in Pelican Airs, right? And we have different gear that is deployable for hurricanes, tornado chases, on the medical side of it, or if we're going into a wildfire. So they're all very specific. If we're going into civil unrest, what does that look like? Civil unrest, call it a riot, right? Or if there's a drone strike, for example, in California, you know? So there's a lot of talk about a lot of things, but having the wherewithal, the intel, and the right partners, that makes all the difference. And so for us, for example, we've gotten calls from Nazareth, from Israel, right? We got calls where we evacuated people out of Dubai into Oman to get them out of that area. But we're working closely with the State Department because unless you're in communication with what's going on the ground and you're moving people, you become part of the casualties, not knowing that they're dropping bombs in an area. Now you're trying to push people through there and you're not in direct communication to effectively and properly move people out of these areas. So bottom line, honestly, I'm a solutions guy, 35 years, 14,000 plus numbered projects. I tune in to see where I can serve, how I can serve. And if any of your listeners are like, hey, you know, I'm interested in what your personal disaster plan or your grab and go supplies are, they can email me and I'm happy to share it with them. There's no promo stuff in there, you know, it's just, there's no promo codes. It's just, I tell them basically what I know that's very effective and what works. And then they can pick up the stuff on Amazon or, you know, pick up the stuff where they need. But obviously the satellite phone store, I mean, those guys, they've been instrumental because every time we deploy, they've always backed us up, providing, you know, mobile Starlinks, helping us set up the Starlinks at all the command centers for the cities, for the municipalities, for the fire departments, for the police departments. Even in Jamaica, they were instrumental in actually setting up comms on that island when they had no comms. So the mayor of Montego Bay, Mo Bay, the fire department there, the police department, Samuel, the chief police officer, we put their mobile Starlinks in their vehicles, on their roofs, and she donated over 50,000 in just the hardware, you know? So I've always been a big promoter of those that promote and support us to support them. But they've done an incredible job. And they have ballistic backpacks that I have my kids take with them that have the Kevlar stuff in it. But yeah, I mean,
the synergy here, and I'm so glad that you're joining us on the Friday show, Steve. I love the Friday shows as Friday show specials because, you know, our audience, our core audience, Steve, and I think the reason there is so much synergy with our partner Sat123 is Bitcoin fundamentally makes you question the very idea of money. And when you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, essentially what you're really doing is you're opting out of the traditional financial system. But with self-custody comes tremendous responsibility because you're not relying on a third-party custodian, which means you're responsible for the asset that you're holding. And security plays a role in that, right? Obviously, you know, as Bitcoiners, there's different levels to it, but I think the longer you remain in the industry, Steve, the more you understand and value sovereignty, the more you understand and value freedom tech. Like, for example, me and my partners were messing around with Jack Dorsey's app yesterday, the BitChat, which is essentially this communications app where you can talk locally via a Bluetooth mesh net, and it doesn't require traditional cellular to interact with each other. And it was so easy to use, right? So I really believe that your company, you know, plays a role in this where Bitcoiners could start really asking the hard questions, right? Because this isn't just about reclaiming sovereignty over your money. This is about reclaiming sovereignty over yourself. And depending on where you fit on the economic spectrum, as you know, we head into the next 5 to 10 years, You got to really ask yourself, look, I'm just speaking, generically, right? Look, like I'm taking self custody of my Bitcoin. Am I really thinking about my security situation? Am I really thinking about what happens, with a potential $5 wrench attack? Am I prepared for that type of situation? Or if you can afford it, you start thinking about it. Look, like, let me start looking into security. I mean, look at the political violence that has happened over the last 2 years. I mean, in the United States, out of all places, right? President Trump, two attempts on his life, and then of course, the late Charlie Kirk. What happened was horrible. So it's better to be prepared than be put in a situation where you say, listen, this could never happen here, and you get caught in a situation where you're unprepared. For a lot of, I would say, Americans in general, I think this country, we take a lot of things for granted. I think the political environment has changed, so I think a lot of people are asking questions. But for example, I'm a first generation American. I originally came from Venezuela, right? So, a lot of the things that, we take for granted in this country isn't exactly the norm in the rest of the world, right? And as the political environment gets a little bit more heated, these are the types of opportunities where you guys want to get yourself prepared, whether that's with training, whether that's with security, whether that's reclaiming back your communication sovereignty. Sat123 has so many products on their store. Mobile batteries, Starlinks, obviously satellite phones, where again, you don't have to rely on a centralized grid for you to communicate with your loved ones, for you to send a Bitcoin transaction. You can plug in your Bitcoin node with the Starlink that's powered by a battery backup, and then that Bitcoin node can communicate with the Blockstream satellite, right? Like there's a big rabbit hole here. So there's a lot of synergy here, Steve. I want to get your opinion. Well, I feel like Bitcoin and your industry, it goes hand in hand. What do you think about Bitcoin? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think it's a necessity, right? It's a necessity, along with just diversifying, right? You could have also your hard gold coins, your silver, and then having stuff that you can barter and trade with. The best thing that I feel that many people can do is create a community, right? It's like a neighborhood watch. You're not calling it a militia, you're not calling it anything, but a neighborhood watch or community. Within your community, get to know your neighbors, right? Who's the welder? Who's the doctor? Who's the Bitcoin guy, right? Everyone has to have some sort of level of diversity, because you're going to count on each other in those type of extreme environments. I mean, if people just go to YouTube and type in strategic response partners, they'll see the multiple deployments that we've done over all these past years, and I know I learned the beauty of it is I'm not the guy that textbooks on prepping. I'm the one who lives the prepping and response side of it. And creating a community, it's always, people go, man, a lot of people. I'm like, I make it a point to know a lot of people. I'm the guy who's got a guy, right? And I'm not asking people, come train with us. Wherever you're at locally, find a group and do a training. Find an outdoor range, do a training. We have the ability with our training to do some of the most incredible simulation, indoor range, outdoor range, night ops. We do all types of immersive site. And of course, there's people that are high net worth that pay for these specialized training for like the YPO, or groups that of like that, where they'll get a group together of their friends. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You just bring in a good trainer, a good instructor, and get the training, get your family prepped, and know how you're going to move in and around a zone if things go down. Like you mentioned with the Bitcoin, having your Starlink, having a battery backup, having the solar panels, and you know what you do? Run a drill. Kill your cell service off, run a drill, put your Starlink up, run the stuff, and see what your hiccups are. That's the biggest problem. People don't drill any of this stuff. It's like, oh, I'm too busy. Well, you're going to have a lot of time on your hand when it goes down, fumbling with stuff that you're like, oh my God, I missed that connection, that little filament or that little screw that would have made my life a lot easier. Handle it now, not when it's in crisis mode. Then you're the person who's relaxed, knowing I'm in position to ride this thing out.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. We have a term, Steve, in the Bitcoin space, which is, we call it peer-to-peer circular economies, right? So again, there's entire examples of this, like, for example, Bitcoin Beach and El Salvador, and I know in Costa Rica as well, where the traditional financial rails just weren't viable in those areas. So that's where Bitcoin kind of came in, and it finally allowed a lot of these individuals in those kind of like isolated communities to finally not only transact with each other digitally, but now have the ability to transact with the world as well. And it goes back to, okay, yes, know a plumber, know a doctor, know this person, and you could pay them directly peer-to-peer with Bitcoin. And it makes you, it puts you in a stronger position. It makes you more sovereign, and it makes you less dependent on, on the powers that be, so to speak. The dependency goes back on yourself, which in my opinion, I think is a good thing. I think that if more of the world, trusted in themselves and depended on themselves, I think a lot of the issues that we see with big government today, a lot of that would naturally, dissipate as time goes by. So, Steve, it's been an honor to have you on the show today. I'd love to have you back on again today. I think that again on the show, I think there's a ton of synergy between what you do at Sabre and the offerings that you guys have and the Bitcoin community as a whole. And I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the synergy, and in terms of really people opening up their eyes, because there really is an enormous community out there, Steve, that is looking at what you had to say. And they're highly interested in it because it goes right up their alley in terms of wanting to reclaim back their sovereignty, not only financially, but as a whole, as an individual.
It's interesting. You shared earlier that you're a first generation from Venezuela. I'm a first generation from Serbia. So I know my family, the pain that they went through with communism. My father spending 7 years in prison for his Christian faith, right? Because he wouldn't take a gun. It kind of skips a generation. But it always brings me back is that I find that those of us who've come from those countries, war-torn countries, sanctioned, back then you don't read the newspaper and you don't trust the government, and you learn how to move sovereignly, but you take full accountability of how you operate, and you only operate because you have community that's trusted. So thank you again for having me on your show. I'm here simply to teach, educate, give them the clear path that I know based on results works, and also what doesn't work. So, your audience is welcome to reach out. Be a little patient. We're on certain ops that are critical, but I will do my best and I will respond. I respond to everybody. I make it a point.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Guys, go to sabreteam.com to find out more information. We also put Steve's website in the video/podcast description. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you as well. Thanks for having me.
Guys, we're going to move on to the next segment, and we're going to be talking about some of the enemies of Bitcoin that are starting to pop up. We're going to be right back in just a little bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you can pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. All right, everybody, we are back. Anyways, guys, tons of clips to react to. I got one by the Economist. They're scaling it up. The propaganda is scaling up again. We played you guys this clip of again, guys. There's this. I'll just be blunt. There's a political divide as it comes to Bitcoin, unfortunately, and again, it's not monolithic. But essentially, there are people in the United States and countries all around the world that want a future of central bank digital currencies. I would say that's a future of nihilism, despair, endless wars, a continuation of the fiat system, but times 10. And then there is another side of the political spectrum that wants freedom, right? That wants to be able to get to decide what money they can use. In my humble opinion, the fact that, you know, you have to basically, you're forced to use a money that is designed to steal from you via inflation is ludicrous. Like, and that's not how the country was originally structured, right? This fiat standard is quite new. It's only been around since 1971. And before that, right, before the Federal Reserve, which was established in 1913, you didn't have a central bank in the United States. In fact, a lot of the original founding fathers warned about what would happen if a central bank was established, and a lot of their predictions became eerily accurate, right? So, we have two opposing worldviews that are happening right now. And the media outlets that support the worldview of more centralization, more, the continuation of fiat, the continuation of the central banking system, because ultimately, guys, you have to understand, all right? And I know that like politicians kind of played this dance where they're like, look, like, Bitcoin isn't money. It's actually a commodity. It's okay if it's a commodity, but it's not okay if it's money. And the reason that they have to take that stance is because Bitcoin, in its very nature, the reason the IMF freaked out the way they did when El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, and the reason the IMF put so much pressure on El Salvador for El Salvador to reverse the Bitcoin as legal tender, is the central bankers can't have it for Bitcoin to be seen as a money, for Bitcoin to be treated and equal to fiat. And the reason they can't have Bitcoin seen in that light is it calls their whole system into question. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without losing purchasing power. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without a central bank. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without a custodian. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without a middleman. And all of the things that I just laid out for you have enormous implications for the current power structures of the world. So the reason I'm laying all of this out is I know we started with kind of like the TradFi conversation in the beginning because that relates to number go up. But remember why we are all here. We are all here. We originally came to Bitcoin because it gave us hope. It gave us hope for change. It gave us hope for a better future. And that better future comes with ending the Federal Reserve. And I think that what we learned as Bitcoiners when we finally threw our hat in the political ring is we finally learned with the election of President Trump, which I appreciate. What he did for Venezuela is amazing. What he did for the Bitcoin community has been great. The fact that he freed Ross Ulbricht. But what we learned with Trump, I believe, is that I don't think you can change the system within the system. I think the only way for things to actually change, and I tweeted this out like a week ago or so, is that the most important vote you could make this midterm year is not voting for party blue or party red. The most important vote you could make is reclaiming back your sovereignty. The number one thing you should do is reclaiming back your financial sovereignty. And you do that by buying Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, and putting that Bitcoin into self-custody. That is the most important thing you could do as an individual and the most important thing that you could do for you and your family. Because that way you opt out of politics entirely. Now, that's not to say that politics aren't important, right? You obviously do want elected officials in office that, represent your desires. But I think the system is so well entrenched that it's going to be very difficult for us to change that said system internally. I think the only way for that system to change is if enough of the population start to opt out of the system entirely. And the way that you do that is, again, buying Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, and putting that Bitcoin into self-custody. I think that's really the only way to do it. So all of that being said, I do want to show you guys this video from The Economist because, again, we've been covering The Economist for so long. I love, one of my favorite things from the people that critique Bitcoin is that they always, Opti, I'm sure you've noticed this, they always end up calling themselves economists. So it's basically, the line goes something like this: Bitcoin is not money. Trust me, I studied economics, right? Like, that's the line, right? And it's like, dude, if you studied economics, I don't know what type of economics you studied, but you don't get to determine what is money. The free market determines what is money, not you with your credentials, not you, the politician, not you, the central banker. Ultimately, the free market is going to get to decide what is money and what is not money. That is a big culture shock. That is a huge shock to the powers that be in the power structures, because governments get a tremendous amount of power from being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. So you guys have to understand where we are in the movie, connect the dots. We started the episode with, all right, guys, number go up, stretch is fantastic. We're infiltrating the traditional financial system. This is great. You know, we did the middle of the show. We brought Steve from Sabre team to talk to you guys about, you know, reclaiming back your individual sovereignty and meat space. And now we're ending the show with keeping you guys informed with what the enemies of Bitcoin are saying, what their propaganda is saying. It's extremely important to stay on top of all of this so that you are informed. After all, this is a midterm year. And whether you like it or not, there's only two parties in the United States. One party, which, again, not a big fan of with this, the Trump videos coming out of his account, they're wild. There was like that the Wii Sports video, and then he's showing like all the bombings that are happening in Iran. Not a big fan of that. A big fan of what happened in Venezuela. So again, it's not perfect, right? But ultimately, how it stands right now is that the Republican Party has a pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC stance. The Democrat Party, which will more than likely win the midterms, has a anti-crypto, anti-Bitcoin stance and pro-CBDC stance. That's how things stand, right? So I am not an ideological voter. I am a single issue voter. My vote is, hey, listen, I'm going to vote for the party that, you know, at least isn't going to, you know, come after me or try to censor me because I'm advocating for freedom tech and freedom money, right? Anyhow, so I do want to show you guys this. The Economist clearly stands on the side of central bank digital currencies. It clearly stands on the side of, you know, the government should control money. So I want to show you guys this, you know, one of the latest hit pieces that they released. So the Economist is claiming that crypto isn't cool anymore. So let's check out the clip.
Crypto is uncool now. And for an asset class based on vibes, that's a big problem. Bitcoin is down about 45% since October. And the market value of all cryptocurrencies has fallen by almost $2 trillion. But crypto has crashed before. So why do its biggest fans seem more despondent than ever? They're sad because they're lonely. All
right, I'm just going to leave it at that. So again, this is just, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is propaganda 101. They're basically saying, you know, Bitcoin isn't cool anymore. And if you buy Bitcoin or if you're into Bitcoin, the reason that you're into Bitcoin, it's because you're lonely, right? So their excuses are suffering from inflation themselves. Their propaganda is suffering from inflation. They can't even come up with good reasons anymore. But they want you to walk nilly-nilly into, hey, let's all adopt central bank digital currencies because they're fantastic, right? So we've seen every single type of FUD excuse known to man thrown at us for the last 10 years or so. It's clear to me that Opti, at least seeing that video, man, are they running out of reasons, bro, to say the least.
Yeah.
Are you lonely?
I'm so lonely. Yo, look, I know Nico's gonna get mad at my response here, but dude, first of all, that last point, I mean, I honestly kind of wish we heard the rest of it. I'm not gonna lie. I was having a good laugh at that, but we're not mad that we're lonely here. We're mad that the price is down 50%. What are we talking about? Like, yo, are you kidding me? And further, like, look, again, I know we try to be as inclusive, and Nico yells at me all the time, but if you're listening to this nerd about what is cool, like, bro, you got a bigger problem, okay? Like, this guy is literally the epitome of not cool, telling us what cool is. It's like, okay. But I do agree with him on a point. crypto is not cool. Crypto, the word crypto is not cool. All the shit coins are not cool at all. People are getting literally destroyed. Everyone's hoping for crypto shit coins to go up. Like, crypto has never been cool. Literally, crypto has never been cool. Now, obviously, I have a bias. I think Bitcoin is the cool thing. Like, Bitcoin is the fundamental revolutionary technology here. And it's not necessarily just about Bitcoin, you know, being cool with the tech itself. It's really about what it means for humanity, what it means for the world, what it means for us as individuals. Like, to me, that is cool. Call me a nerd because I wear glasses too, whatever. But to me, the implications of what Bitcoin is going to do, I think that's like the coolest thing ever. That's why we are so obsessed with it. That's why we became obsessed with it in the first place. Now, it does make a point here, though. I know the Economist made a point. It's not about economics at all. But you can see that a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about recently, and I'm particularly me on the show and Nico as well, because we have been covering the propaganda against Bitcoin, is you can tell from where the price currently is, where we currently are in the bear market, that the sentiment, the demoralization has been working very well. And you can see right now that they're doubling down on this moment, that they're going to continue to double down, continue to try to get people away from Bitcoin because they know what it means. They know what it will do. It's their jobs to try to get people basically still corralled in the traditional vehicles, in the traditional system. Because if everyone's out here, you know, just doing Bitcoin things completely unplugged, then they obviously, one, will lose their business model. But two, it will fundamentally change where things are, and then they have to update what's going on. They have to update their models. They have to change their worldview. And so, honestly, I kind of enjoyed that. I'm not going to lie. I totally do agree. Shitcoins aren't cool. I don't listen to that. I can't even listen to that guy tell me what cool is. To me, that's just funny in and of itself.
Listen, man, I'm selling all my bags because I'm lonely, bro. That's what it comes down to. And
I'm so lonely.
Like,
dude.
I gotta buy the CBDCs.
I mean, he's got a point, dude. You know? I thought I was gonna get a girlfriend this cycle, so I am actually lonely.
Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the Friday show. Before we wrap it up, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bitcoin 2026. It's coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada. You guys don't want to miss it. I do call the Bitcoin event, the Bitcoin Magazine event, the Bitcoin Super Bowl weekend of the year. It's the largest Bitcoin conference. Bitcoin 2026 is going to be in Las Vegas this year, April 27th through the 29th of 2026. It's going to be at the Venetian Hotel. I'm going to be there. Simply Bitcoin crew is going to be there. There's so many good speakers. Chad Saylor speaking, of course. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great time. You definitely don't want to miss it. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets. You want to get your tickets now before the prices increase. The prices increase in 12 hours. So you want to get your tickets to Bitcoin 2026. Bitcoin 2026. Promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets to the Bitcoin conference. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I do want to give a very special shout out to my brother Opti for holding it down this week. I've been CEOing, which is taking my time off the camera a little bit, off Simply. So we have some great plans for you guys this year in terms of content. We're really, really excited to let you guys know. You guys will find out over the next couple of weeks. We've been working really, really hard behind the scenes. So appreciate you all. We wouldn't be here without you. If you guys want to support the show, check out our partners. Our partners are what allow us to stay on air. So check out BitKey, check out Sat123, check out Bitcoin Well, check out Ledin. Again, they're all amazing products. Stampseed, of course, HIVE Digital Technologies, one of the best Bitcoin miners in the game. They just had a major announcement today, by the way, which I want to give a shout out to. So HIVE, let me pull this up. HIVE is Hive Digital Tech and AMC Robotics announced a strategic collaboration to advance AI-driven robotics. AMC will use Hive's GPU AI cloud to power development and deployment of next-gen robotic applications. Go check out the Hive ticker. It's live right now on the NASDAQ. So anyways, shout out to our friends over at Hive. Guys, if you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. Again, check out our partners if you guys want to support us, and we'll see you on Monday. Go outside, get some sun, touch some grass, eat some good food, spend time with the family, enjoy the weekend, and of course, we'll be back on Monday to help you guys through this interesting 2026. Love y'all. Take it easy.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.